We should get right to the interview. What do you guys think?
So Kathy decided it might be a good idea. So Jeff, you're always doing the interviewing. What if I interviewed you? And so, of course, I thought, well, I have a feeling that you're going to throw in some questions that maybe you didn't prepare me for. And I actually prefer not to see the questions. She said to me backstage, she said, you know I sent you the questions, right? And I was, oh, yeah, I saw them. I actually didn't open it. Because I'd rather be put on the spot. Because what happens is sometimes in a setting like this, when you have time to prepare your answer, you don't always speak from the heart.
No, I agree.
You think of what you'd want the audience to get out of it. So hopefully they're not too tough.
No, they're not.
And let's have some fun. So we're going to pull up a chair, and you've got a list. You got your questions?
I do.
Do you need a water, by the way? I've been drinking water. I feel.
I would love a water.
All right. Let me see if we can get a water up here for you.
Okay.
So can we get a water for Kathy, real quick?
Did you guys get a lot out of the millionaire mindset? Say yes. Cool.
And Kathy, we're going to have a nice little fireside chat. There, it's a little wet, so be careful. And I'm going to grab mine, so I have that also. And you have some questions
I do.
for me. All right, let's have some fun.
You guys ready to have fun? What's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done?
That's question one?
I said we were going to have fun, so I thought I might as well just throw it out. Just kidding. So I just wanted to take a little time because I think even some of these things I don't really know, right, about you.
Sure.
So give us a little. I want to give us a little insight about Jeff Glover. So where did you grow up?
So I actually moved around 3 times before I graduated high school. So I started elementary school, I moved 4 times. So I started in a town called Westland, Michigan. Then I went to elementary school in Livonia, Michigan. I went to middle school in a town called Belleville, Michigan, and graduated from Novi High School. So I guess 4 times I moved around during my childhood.
Why was that?
Well, I think the move from Westland to Livonia was for a better quality of life, a better school system. I think that my parents were thinking about getting me and Christy, my sister, into a better school system. And then, like a lot of parents today, not of course everyone, but then at 10 years old they divorced.
Yep.
And I made the decision at that age to go live with my mom. And we lived in a town called Sumter Township, which is essentially, Belleville's like the main city, but the actual township is Sumter Township. And the school system there wasn't as great as the Livonia school system that I was in before. And I would say that I was probably on the path. Not that there's anything wrong with this, but most of the kids that went to that school at the time, anyways, had no desires to own businesses or go to college and do good in society. Other than, I think most of the classes that I was taking was like shop and car repair and HVAC. I mean, those were the types of classes that we were taking. And, I think my dad saw an opportunity for him to spend more time with his son. So he bought a trailer in a town called Novi, Michigan, which is a pretty wealthy city with a really good school system. And essentially towards the end of my 9th grade, I made the decision to go live with my dad and finish out high school in Novi. So that's why I moved, I guess.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a good story. Yeah, so your parents divorced when you were 10?
That's right.
Yeah, mine were I was 15, so it's one thing. Interesting. Yep. So what's one memory that you learned from childhood, whether, I'm going to say like before your teenage or anything that influences you today?
Well, I would say one of the advantages of moving around, and I actually, I know a lot of people, it's kind of like a classic thing for those that have kids, when you say, well, I don't want to move, I had to move around a lot, so, I know what that was like, and I don't want to put my son or daughter through that. And I actually happen to believe that moving around is actually part of what made me who I am today, because I was forced to meet new people. I was forced to, I remember when I moved from Sumter Township or the Belleville school system to Novi. I had to change my whole wardrobe. I did not fit in at all. It was like night and day, the type of kids that I went to school with.
Yeah.
And so that forced me, I think, to learn how to understand people better and their backgrounds and their why people behave the way they behave. And I think that actually was an advantage that I had. Moving around so much helped me with versatility.
Yeah, that's a great outlook.
And getting familiar with people that maybe weren't like me, because I was forced to make new friends each time. Obviously, anyone that's moved around, that's the worst part.
Yeah.
So that was a absolute early on lesson for me for sure.
That's cool though. I like that a lot. So what were your favorite things to do when you were a child, or like in junior high and high school? Like, did you always carry a microphone around with you, or always wanted to speak?
Well, if you ask my mom and my sister, they'll tell you that I used to. So I don't know, how old was I?
Oh.
Christy, do you remember when we lived in Livonia and I would put on shows for?
Wait, is that when you put on the black cape?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we have a video. Oh no, I'm just kidding.
No, I would gather like my parents and my sister, and they'd have people over and say, "Come on, gather around." They'd walk into my bedroom, and I'd have humidifiers going for the fog. Seriously. And I would hide behind the drape, and my buddy, his name was Brad, he was sitting outside the window of our house, sitting on the ledge of the window, and I would go behind the drape, and I would do costume changes.
Oh yeah.
And he would hand me clothes through the window, and I'd come back out, and I'd perform. I never followed that passion,
Yeah.
singing.
Your mom told me that, by the way.
Yeah.
So like you were singing?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like.
Well, let's do it.
No. I remember.
So wait. Do you
One of my
remember
songs-
at least
oh.
one of the songs?
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on, man. Be coachable.
Watch. Ready? Don't tell my heart, my achy, breaky heart. I just don't think it'll understand. And if you tell my heart,
Come on, man.
breaky heart, oh, something, nothing kill this man. Woo! Yeah.
So there was a microphone, it just wasn't singing.
It wasn't on.
Yeah, all right. But it was for your so Chrissy, were you part of the act or were you just watching?
She was in the audience.
Oh, you're in the audience.
She was
yeah.
in row one.
Right, she was in row one, like she is now. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting, though. That kind of does have something to do. So how did you know when you were going to, like everybody else that gets in real estate, most people don't come out as a baby and say, yes, I'm selling real estate. So how did you get into real estate? What caused that?
So one of the things that happened to me when I moved from Belleville to Novi is, I had massive imposter syndrome because, kids would find out that I lived in a trailer park and they'd make fun of me. And so, I remember overhearing a conversation in 10th or 11th grade in an art class of people talking about, oh, what neighborhood do you live in? What neighborhood do you live in? And so I knew the question was coming around to me. And so the neighborhood was called Highland Hills, trailer park or something. And I called it, I live in the estates of Highland Hills. I changed the name of the neighborhood because I was so embarrassed and by the way, they figured out, where's that at? The kids, they're like, I've never heard of that one. Where's that at? Oh, it's, just over off Grand River and Meadowbrook. It's been there for a bit. Yeah, but true story. But really, no, what's over at Grand River and Meadowbrook? I don't think there's a neighborhood over there. Oh yeah, there's this little road called Sealy Road. It's in the back. It's no big deal. Anyway, what are you guys doing later? Whatever. I was trying to change the subject. And I overheard them after the conversation changed, whispering about, I think that's the trailer park. Oh. He lives in the trailer park. Wow. And so, that was also the time when, I was used to, when I was living in Belleville, it was normal. The kids would probably get $100 or $150 for school clothes. Mm-hmm. And I was going to school, which is what I was getting, by the way. And I was going to school with kids that were getting $1,000, you know, to go buy their clothes for the year. And so I just remember thinking that, you know, and it's kind of like I learned it later in life, but if it is to be, it's up to me kind of thing.
Yep.
If I'm going to fit in, like we so desperately try to do when we're in school probably, then I'm going to have to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
And so I got a job working at Circuit City, and I learned how to sell. And I was on commissions. They were on commissions. And that led me to a job selling furniture. And by the time I was a senior in high school, Kathy, I made $65,000 my senior year in high school selling furniture. Yeah, like part-time.
I think I remember that story.
Yeah, part-time selling
Yeah.
furniture. And so it was the reverse. I was now the guy that, like, you know, yeah, I could buy whatever, you know. Yeah. And I had a guidance counselor just basically say, look, kid, you know, it's obvious that you enjoy sales. I know a lot of your friends are going away to college, but you ought to consider a career in real estate. And so
I remember that.
I applied for a couple colleges just to be able to tell I knew my plan all along, but I wanted to be able to show my friends that I could get into college. So I applied and got accepted to a couple of them. One of them, and I was really close to, because all my friends went to Western Michigan University, so that's where I was going to go. Home of the Broncos, that's right. And now I still spend every weekend there, so I got to know it very well. It's in Kalamazoo, Michigan, the west side of the state.
Yeah.
So I was going to go sell furniture there and get into real estate there and do college there, and I just decided to stay back and do real estate.
What year was that?
That was 2003.
Oh, okay. And when did we meet?
We met in May of '05.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So right after junior high. Oh, no.
Yep,
Or
yep,
high
that's
school,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, you know, it's been fun, obviously, working with you when you were younger, hiring you when he was 20, which was really fun. There was a lot of
I don't know if you knew that. We celebrated my 21st birthday during a sales meeting in your
yeah,
office.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had like booze and a cake that said 21st and all this stuff. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, because we went to an event before that where everyone was having a drink and you were only 20, you couldn't have one.
Correct.
And then whatever.
Yeah.
That's another conversation. I think you figured out how to get some though.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. So getting into the speaker and training.
Did you want to tell the one story from that? I thought that's where you were going with
Wait,
that. I'm comfortable telling you.
Yeah, you tell it.
The 20-year-old story
Margarita?
at the bar.
Oh, you tell it.
Oh, no, not the Lloyd Odell story.
Oh, no, Lloyd.
I'll tell that one another day. So, do not tell that. So, I was a young manager at 20 years old, and, you know, oftentimes, like after the event,
For our
the lobby bar or whatever, people congregate, network, and whatever. Well, I had met a lady friend that night at the lobby bar.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And
sorry, Sunshine.
all of the managers encouraged me, you know, oh, go for it. She's totally into you, dude. Go for it. And so, you know, I had to lie about my age because she was in her 30s, and so I said I wasn't even 21.
No.
So I said I was 27, and you know, we had some good conversations.
You didn't even look 27.
Anyways, the next morning, the leader of the conference was giving kudos actually to Kathy and Paul, and you know, said something to the effect of, and you know, these two, Kathy and Paul, her husband Paul, just hired what I think is probably the youngest manager that I've ever met in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
And he said, Jeff, where are you at?
Yeah.
No, Jeff, stand up. True story. Jeff, how long you been in the real estate business? 3 years. And how old are you? And I swear, the girl is like from me to Troy. I can feel her watching me. 20.
I remember that now. Was that the last date?
Huh?
Was that the last date?
Yes, that was.
I remember that story now. That's so funny you bring that. So it's interesting because we have even more, but we just can't go into it now. So the speaker and training thing, right? Leading people, doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, did it start when you were
Started with you?
the black cape on and singing?
No,
that you
no, no, no.
Okay.
No, it
so
started.
I remember our conversation about you wanting to be a speaker
Yeah.
and a trainer.
Well, it wasn't even really that I wanted to be a speaker. I just wanted to train.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I just
You're
enjoyed
right.
training more than anything. And
Yeah,
so
you're right.
where speaking comes into that is that's how you can train people at a faster rate.
You're right about that. Yeah.
And it actually started when I was with your company because we were with, you know, what was considered somewhat of a traditional franchise. And you were operating not as a traditional franchise. You were following a different system and saying, hey, this is what we want to train our agents on.
Yeah.
And I just remember the training manual from the franchise and the events that we would go to from the franchise. And I just remember thinking to myself, if I ever get the chance to be on a microphone in front of agents,
So it is.
I want to be known as the guy that's willing to tell the truth about what it takes to succeed in real estate, because the training today in our industry, even back then and still to today,
Yeah.
is very low level. I mean, you understand that's one of the problems I've always had, and you know, don't get mad because we've got broker owners in here as well. But that's one thing I hate about the capping system.
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell the agent after they hit a certain level you don't really care about them anymore?
Right.
Because that's what it does.
Yeah. That's. And, I've
And
heard
now I
that.
know as agents, we love the cap. You know, 100%, 100%. Yeah, but at that point, the company has no interest in getting you beyond there.
I've
And
heard
you know,
of-
I'm not
I've
calling
heard
any
that.
one particular company out because most have caps nowadays
Yep.
anyways. And I just remember thinking that when I was flipping through the training manual, this is not going to get anyone to an unreal life. At the time, it wasn't unreal life, but to an amazing life.
Yeah.
This is not going to get people rich. I mean, the schedule, the plan, you know, one open house a month, you know, mail to your farm once per month, and, you know, send, you know, cupcakes to your database, and you'll be a million. No, that's not the truth.
I know.
And so what I learned is, and I learned why the industry is set up that way, because brokers and owners and leaders are afraid that if they tell you the truth, you'll either quit the business or you'll go to a competitor. So instead, here's what most of them do. Present company excluded, of course. Tell me all the things that you're great at, and I'll tell you all the things that you're great at. I'm going to feed and fuel your ego so you feel good about working here, and hopefully that turns into success for you. I'm sorry, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
That
Yes.
doesn't work.
Which is, I remember the conversation about when we actually did consolidate the Livonia office that we hired him for. And we didn't know that when he hired him that we were going to do that. And you did a great job, but just the economic times had to do it. He was amazing. But he said to me, and you looked me straight in the eye, and he goes, I'm going to be a trainer. I want to help people, and I want to train. You're excellent. He also recruited for us. So I remember that. So let's fast forward to like now.
Okay.
What drives you to get out of bed every day? You're so excited all the time. I mean, I don't know about you if you guys know, but I think you sleep like maybe 6 hours. Like
5.5, 6 hours, yeah.
So what is the driving factor? Because we can all feel it, right? That burning desire to help people and contribute to their lives and help them grow and tell them the truth, even if you don't want to hear it. So what is it? How would you describe it?
The number one driving factor is that I feel like I'm going to run out of time.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, I think that there's a certain level, there's a certain amount of people that we need to be exposed to make a difference in their life, and they don't even know who we are, and I'm afraid we're not going to get to them all by the time I'm no longer here. And so every day I'm acting with urgency as if it might be the last day, because you know, when we say the mission is to impact millions, we mean millions with an S. And if I don't get after it every single day, you know, it won't get us there. I have to do it every day.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
you
what
can-
I've been called to do.
For those of us that work close with you, you know that. And so if you're afraid of that, I must be really afraid because I'm 25 years older than you. It does drive me though. The one thing
Well, I think
yeah.
you can, that's the thing, if you set the goal big enough, the bigger you set the goal, you look at how much time you have, the more urgency you're going to have to act with.
Right.
right? You know, if you're here and you set the goal here and you look at, all right, I got about 10 years left of good work, well, all right, that's pretty manageable. You're not going to act with as much urgency.
Right.
But if you're here and you want to go to here and you have your timeline to do that by, you're going to act with a lot more urgency, because every day that you don't work towards it is a day wasted.
Totally.
And that's how I truly feel.
Oh, and I think we all know that and feel that too. And we feel the same way. Maybe not so much like that, but because like fanatical comes in mind, and it's a compliment, just so you know.
Yeah.
So when did you, okay, so Glover Agency, you know, you guys all know, I think everyone here, or some of the new people might not know, but we have a phenomenal Glover Agency team, and I think with 67 OSAs right now. When did you start that, and what caused that?
So, well, 67 licenses, but we've got about 35, 38 full-time producers.
Okay.
Because some people are, you know, showing agents, some people are inside sales
Yeah.
associates, or operations team members.
Yeah.
So that started in January 2009.
Well, that was, when did you leave?
Yeah,
When did you bail on me? I mean, when did you leave?
I left your company in January 2009.
Yeah, so that's when you went and started, I remember
That's when we opened up an
visiting.
office.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
which was awesome.
Well, yeah, at the time, because there weren't a lot of team offices back then, and I wanted to have an office with high energy music playing, bells ringing, and, you know, encouragement, high fiving.
and it was- yeah.
And that didn't exist in most real estate environments, so I wanted to create that in ours. And by the way, I would have done it with Kathy. I mean, I went to you and Paul and said,
I
here's
know.
what I want to do. And, you know, you talked to the franchisor, and they said, look, an agent can't have an office within your territory. That'd be competing with your space. And, you know, so your hands were kind of tied, and I was forced to go do it somewhere else.
Yeah, which is awesome. Really good, that's a good story. And wasn't Leslie part of that?
Leslie
Yeah, where are you?
Allo, now Leslie Williams,
Yeah.
recruited me away from your company.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes.
And I coach her now, so talk about full circle. Way to go, Leslie. But in all sincerity, it's so cool how, you know, there was never any bad feelings about when you left or had to do your own thing. It was never anything like that, and now it's full circle.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what is one of the top 2 pieces of advice you'd give anyone to get to the next level in their career? I mean, obviously we have the Glover U stuff, and we teach that, but, you know, what would you suggest for the next level?
Well, number one, you have to identify people who are doing what you want to be doing. And you got to figure out ways to model them, follow them, hang around them. You know, when I decided back in 2005 that if I ever had the chance, I was going to be the one that told the truth of what it's going to take to succeed in this
Yep.
business, immediately I started observing and taking workbooks full of notes of how to run events,
Yeah.
how to put a schedule together for an event, what to do before the breaks, what to do after the breaks, what to do before lunch, what to do after lunch. You know, I knew where I wanted to go, and I started following people that were at where I wanted to go. And, you know, many times that can be tough for people because, you know, kind of like what, for those that were in the VIP lunch, Kate made the comment of, you're going to have to cut some ties to make room
Yeah.
for other people in your life. And I think that's, you know, I'm answering the question, but I can't help but turn it into a development opportunity.
Sure.
I think
What a
that's-
surprise.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is that people hang on to their past internally, and also their past in terms of relationships. And sometimes they don't realize how those relationships are holding them back. And they're not, and what Kate said, she put it best, you have to open up time to be exposed to and to get into a relationship with other people, which means you're going to have to cut out something.
Yeah.
You're going to have to cut out something, whether it's a relationship or a thought or whatever. So, you know, I think that's the biggest thing. That would be number one. Identifying someone that's doing what you want to be doing and at the level you want to be doing it at, and study them, observe them. And that might mean not hanging out with the same people that you're hanging out with every single day. That'd be number one. Number two is, without question, I think that my unfair advantage has been my work ethic. And, you know, I have always said, no matter what level of skill I have, I'm always going to outwork the competition. And so, for me, you know, some people say, well, Jeff, you honestly want to work hard your whole life? Like, that's not exciting. And I don't know how else to put it. I mean, I put it in the daily message. I write about it in an email sometimes. I don't look at it as work, guys. This is not work. I mean, even when I go on a listing appointment, I could care less what's inside their closets and, you know, what's in this closet in the basement in the storage room. Like, I don't need to see another closet for the rest of my life. Honestly, I'm good, you know. I mean, you know what it's like when you're showing houses to buyers. Oh my God, the kitchen is hideous. We can never live here. Hey, but let's look upstairs. Why? What? I don't need that. But I do it because I know that it's for a bigger purpose. And it's not work. And we have to figure out a way. So I guess my second piece of advice on the work ethic thing, we gotta figure out a way to make work feel like less work, if that makes sense.
That's a great way to say it.
And one of the ways that I think you can do that is by always being crystal clear with what the eventual outcome will be. Because then it doesn't feel like work. It's actually more like a path or a journey to that outcome or that benefit or whatever's at the end of the rainbow, right? Then it's like, this is the path I have to go down to get there. And this path, although it's work, is fun because I'm going to get there. And this is what it's going to be like when I get there. That's why I get so passionate about you have to be able to see it. You have to be able to taste it, sense it, feel it. Because then it's not work anymore. Then it's just the journey to get there. And it's got to, you know, it's enjoyable. So I don't look at work ethic as something that's like bad or negative or, you know, whatever. It's life. It's not work. It's enjoyable. It's the journey.
Yeah. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Well, and everyone has their different version of what that is in chapters of their life. You know, some people will say, well, Jeff, you know, well, of course, he doesn't have any kids or whatever. Chapters change.
They do change.
And I think that, you know, just because your chapter doesn't match mine doesn't mean that you can't find that same level of joy and happiness in the work you're doing.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think it's just such a great way. And you can feel it in the environment. I think everyone can feel it around here. So I have a serious question.
Yes.
Even more than that. Tell me about the time you tried out for Family Feud.
Family Feud.
You tried out for Family Feud? Is that right?
Yeah.
So were you going to explain to the audience? I mean, you think I was going to leave on
I was with my family. Well, you know, I tried out for the Apprentice too.
Oh yeah, that's a good story too.
I kept it on my resume for like 15 years.
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
Taylor. Wait, so you want to talk about the
I never
Apprentice
actually
and
made it
not
on the
Family
show
Feud?
either. That's the best part.
Did you make it on the Family Feud?
No, we didn't make it on.
Okay, so what happened to the Apprentice? I mean,
Well, I was actually, it's kind of a cool story. So it was when The Apprentice first came out, and it was really cool, real cool, exciting show. And I tried out, and I remember actually in your office, I had a friend videotape me of a typical day, and I sent in my first application and said, although I'm not 21, because you had to be 21 to apply to get on the show.
Oh yeah.
Although I'm not 21, by the time the show airs, I will be.
Yeah.
So I sent in the video, you know, I filled out this long application, and they actually responded and said, look, kid, in so many words, apply again next year because we like what we see, and it doesn't matter, you have to be 21 at the time of filming. So same thing, I had, you know, a friend, you know, woke up in the morning, you know, got my suit on, I mean, literally they wanted to see what your typical day looks like. And so I made it to the semifinals, which were in Chicago, and I was only 21 at the time. It was my first time in Chicago. You know, I'm thinking like, I was by myself, you know, this train system and all this stuff was not easy to figure out. There were no Ubers and stuff back then. And I finally got to my hotel, and they said, okay, when you get to your hotel, this is how sneaky it was. They said, you're gonna stay here, and when you get to your hotel, You're going to get a call between 9 and 9:30 the next morning. Keep your phone near you. We'll tell you where to go next. So I had no idea. They just said, go stay at this hotel. So I'm thinking, like, what if I don't get service there? Like, what do I need to do? So anyways, phone rings. Yep, come up to this room. And I walk in, lights and they removed all the furniture from this suite and just grilled me with question after question after question. They want to see like how you'll respond and, will you get into fights with people? And, they wanted to see some drama. Huh?
Who was the host of that show?
The Apprentice, Donald Trump.
That's what I thought.
Donald Trump. So they like that.
Well, no wonder.
They wanted that. So I got a call back after that process.
You can see how much I watch. Sorry.
So there's 16 people that make it on the show. I was in the top 32. I made it to the final cut. And they called me and said, and they were really truthful because they actually told me, if you don't hear from us, you didn't get on the show. Well, you want to know why. Like, what do I need to do differently, right? So I called and called and called. They finally responded. I talked to like the producer or whatever. And she said, well, Jeff, here's the deal. We had 2 people that were great candidates for Michigan, you including. The other one was a female who was a Harvard grad and an Olympic field hockey player. And so we're going with her, and that's why. Because they don't like to have 2 people from one state, and obviously she was more qualified, and that would look better on screen than a realtor.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, that's, and yeah, from there I was very proud of making the final cut of The Apprentice.
That's a great story. So lastly, before we let everyone take a break, since we went a little while, how would you describe your unreal life? Let's say it's, today or in 10 years or 20 years, and you a little bit older.
Yeah.
And then I'm a lot older, but how would you describe your unreal life?
Doing what I want, when I want to, with who I want to do it with, without any regard for anything else. And I know that in order to do that, this journey that I'm on, this path of impacting millions, which is going to take a little while, might seem like it's restricting that, but this is absolutely the path for me of what I enjoy the most, and I really couldn't think of anything else that I'd rather be doing than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, well, we're happy that you're doing what you're doing now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Kim.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Sonny.
Thank you so much.
I'll be back.
You too.